All right, everybody, we're back. I'm not sure what happened, but I rebooted, did some other things, and we're here. So let me just bring this up and make sure we're live. For anybody who's just popping in now, I'm Greg from GregsTutoringNYC. How y'all doing? Let's see if this is so we're up to part 14 now. Hello? Roberto? Yeah, okay, all right, I see that coming up there. I'm just make sure I'm here. How y'all doing? Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, hello. All right, so we'll just continue on from before, and hopefully there's no other technical difficulties. Let me just make sure this is good. This is the way it goes when we're live streaming, right? So, you should know I'm not being a phony or something, whatever. All right, we did 72, we just did 73, we just did 74. Let me make sure that's what's coming up on your guys' screens. There's a slight delay. And just as soon as that pops up, we'll roll. Okay, yeah, we're good. All right, so the probability of drawing a red candy at random from a bag of 25 candies is 2/5. So the probability of a red, basically from a pool of 25, is 2/5. Okay, so after 5 candies are removed, what is the probability of drawing a red candy? So what we kind of need to do is figure out how many out of the 25 is red in the first place. So that's just going to be 2/5 of 25. Of 25 means multiplication. So 5 goes into there 5 times, and we end up with 10. Okay, so that means the reds to the total is equal to 10 out of 25. So normally it's going to be 2/5, right? And that jives with what we got here. Okay, 10 out of 25. All right. So if 5 candies are removed, okay, that means we're going to come down for the 10 out of 25 and subtract 5 from here. Okay, this does not give us 5 out of 25. Okay, this is wrong. Okay, because if we remove 5 reds, we do get 10 minus 5. But it means our total just changed as well. So we're going to get 25 minus 5. Okay, so we're going to end up with this 5 out of 20 now. And if we simplify that, we get a quarter. Okay, so the answer should be H in that case, 74. All right, so this one was kind of straight up. Let's get hyped, yeah. Let's get hyped, man. Let's go wild. All right, is everybody good on that problem? Okay, and some of these are going to be harder than the others, right? And when you know what happens when you get liked? You smash the like button when you get hyped. So everybody smash that like button. That's 74, 75. Okay, so 75 is a nasty one in a certain way. A lot of kids ask, are sequences going to be on the test? And the answer is yes, this is a sequence question, all right? And what you have to do is kind of figure out what it's saying. I got wires all over the place here. Trying to figure out what it's saying and work from there. So each number in a sequence, so we're being told there is a sequence, is formed by doubling the previous number and then adding 1. So if I had a sequence, and this was the previous number, let's say the previous number was 9, it's telling me to get the next number, I need to double it and then add 1. So it'll be 18, and that equals 19, okay? So from the previous here, the next would be 19, all right? Is everybody cool with that? That's what I'm getting out of the first sentence. I don't know where else the problem's going here yet, but I'm just trying to analyze it. And as I get to the end of every sentence, I'm just trying to think what happened here so far. And I do this with the ELA questions too, by the way. All right, it's the same kind of process. We're just trying to understand those kind of things like that. Hey, you, what's up? Okay. If the ninth number is 63, okay, so there's some sequence where, let's say it was this, it's 9, 19, some bigger numbers, some good yada yada. There's a whole bunch of stuff that might go on there. All right. What is the 10th number minus the 7th number? All right. So let me get rid of some of this clutter off the screen so we can kind of talk about this perhaps in some sort of logical fashion. So if we work this, that the previous number, so it's 2 times some version of this, the value of the previous number. Okay, so I'm putting this down here. It's almost like I'm doing P of 1 like that. Okay, that's what I'm doing here. So the value of the previous number, and I'm going to parenthesize that, even though this is just part of the name of V. So this is the name of my symbol, Vn minus 1. Okay, I'm going to parenthesize this and add 1. And that's equal to the value of the one before it. Okay? That's what it tells us. Let me write that neater. The value okay, this is just like 2 times x, but I'm just writing it that way. So let's ignore that because that's written sloppily. Each number in a sequence is formed by doubling the previous number. So if we're at this number, we're going to double the number before it. Okay, we're just using annotations right now. We're not actually doing anything yet. Doubling the previous number and then adding 1. So it's telling us that the value of the 9th number is equal to 63, right? That's what this right here means in math. Okay, that's right here. Okay, so if we use these, okay, that means that we have to backwards this part here into that. So if it's looking at the value of 9 as that means 9 is equal to 2 times the value of 8, okay, plus 1. And they're telling us that's equal to 63. Okay? So it means if we now we have we're solving for x. In this case, our x is called V8, right? So now it's just regular algebra. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So we're going to get 62 equals 2 times V8. And then we're going to divide each side by 2. And therefore, V8 is equal to 31. Okay? It wants the 7th one. So what we're going to do is go through that a second time. So now that we know that V8 is equal to 31, right? Right? V8 is also equal to 2 times V7 plus 1. So we go through that same process. That's equal to 31. We subtract 1 from both sides. So 2 times V7 is equal to 30. And therefore V7 is equal to 15. All right? Because that's what we're looking for, the 7th number and the 10th number. Okay? So we only solved V8 in order to give us V7. So now we have V7 is equal to 15. Okay? What we have to now do is V10, right? So what might V10 be? It says it's going to be the previous number and then adding 1 to it, all right? doubling the previous number. So V9 was 63. Let's see, what do we have white space on here? 63. Whoops. $63 times 2 plus 1, right? So we get, that's 126 plus 1 equals 127. Okay, so that's V10. So V10 equals 127. Okay, that was 15. So all we're going to do is subtract the two of these. So we're going to get 2, 1, 1, 2. So 75 should be C. Yes, it is, okay? Right, this one's pretty tricky. Does anybody have any questions about it? So the English part of it's fairly good, but it's tricky to develop this right here. And to understand it cognitively, mentally, conceptually, really what's going on here. This is the key to it. And just mapping that it's the previous one versus the current one, right? Are you taking the SHSAT? Yeah, I'm taking the SHSAT. If I could get hold of it, I would. Yeah, you know, a bad thing is that the actual SHSATs are never revealed to everybody. Is there another way to solve this problem? Yeah, you could brute force the number in as well. You could try 96, 111, 112, and 127 and work backwards. You still have to somehow compute V7, no matter how you do it, and you still have to compute V10. All right, so it can get awkward and tricky. This is actually the most straightforward way. It's a sequence, right? It's an arithmetic sequence, and you don't, because the sequence is based on this formula here, right? This right in here, you have no other choice but to do it. You have to come up with the formula and go backwards or forward on it. So it's actually a hard problem. And most of you don't prep for sequences. So it's worth giving the sequence a look-see. There's usually sequence questions in disguise on the SHSAT. It's usually not as blatant as this. Often it's in the form of an input-output table. So you might have X and Y, right? And they'll just give you values in the two tables. And you'll have to detect a pattern in that case. And often you just fill in the table yourself, okay? This is no different than that. You could also make a table and just fill it in if you want, okay? That's really all that's happening here. Would this be experimental? No. It won't be experimental. It's a legit question. It's fair game for the SHSAT for sure. You all learned about sequences, and it's totally fair game for a math concept to give it to you guys to do. All right. It doesn't come up a lot. Okay. Remember too that SHSAT is arithmetic based, so you guys got to be careful with that kind of a thing too. No, there's no way to know whatsoever. By the way, on some exams, they're called experimental questions. On the SHSAT, they're not called experimental questions. They're called field questions. And that's just not a different notation. On some tests, they're actually giving you experimental questions for the next time they give the test. I don't believe the field questions, or at least all the field questions on the SHSAT, are for that purpose. Okay? On some tests they are, and some they're not. But no, there's no way to decide. In fact, it's so elusive that on some tests, they know what's at the beginning of the field questions beforehand, but the DOE never tells us at what point they decide that. So let's say every kid on the SHSAT gets question number 75, right? They may decide after they give everybody a score to remove 75, which basically means they're going to go back and rescore. And because it's a computer program, that's a no-brainer to do, all right? So it might actually be decided after the exam is taken. Yeah, we're eventually gonna do that, and I have a feeling I actually did that a couple of months ago. But yes, we're definitely gonna do the grade 9 problems. What I'm also gonna do is perhaps right after this stream, like 10 minutes afterward, I'm gonna go back to problem 65, and we're gonna beat the daylights out of it, because there's other variations we can get on every question here, and I just want you guys to see that how we can take this one illustration and get 10, 20, 30 questions out of it. So what we're going to do is a stream on that too, just on question 65. We already answered it, but I'm going to make variations of the question, maybe 10 different ways to do it. Not the exact same question. I'm going to show you how you can have the same illustration and the same concepts, but totally different questions based on that. All right, guys? But we will be solving the 9th grade problems as well. Guys, welcome. I see there's a bunch of people in the lobby here. Hopefully everybody's doing well. You guys got, what, 5 days now? Most of you are going to be taking it. Cassie has a few more days. She has like 8 days or something, because I think you take it next Saturday then, or at least next Saturday or the Sunday after that too, is the choices you're getting. By the way, nobody knows when these things are happening. Hopefully the DOE is sending out notices to you guys literally right now. Remember, smash the like button. How could there only be one like? That don't make no sense, people, right? Smash the like button. And let's go to the next problem. I'm not sure when I'm going to end the stream. So let me get rid of some of this clutter here. Oh, you're a grade 9 too, Roberto? Okay, so this problem's awkward to the extent that that when the question starts up, there's just a list of numbers here. There's just a random list of numbers, and there's no meaning to it. So let's go through again what you're going to take it a sentence at a time, phrase at a time. At a skating championship, cool. There are 7 judges, cool, who each award a score for each skater's performance. Big deal. That sounds apropos for things, right? Oh, are you from a DOE school or a charter school, maybe? The highest and lowest score given to each skater are discarded, and the mean. So we're going to discard the lowest and the highest. Okay. And we're going to do the mean. Okay. So you guys need to know all your points of center. And by the way, this doesn't come up often, but it comes up enough, your points of center. There's range, min, max, mode, and then median, and then mean is one of them. There's the arithmetic mean. That's what they're asking you to get here. The arithmetic mean, which is also the same as the average. Okay? So what we need to do is figure out which is the highest and the lowest here. So 9 seems to be the highest. And 8.2 seems to be the lowest. Is that right? You're public. Okay. All right. So what we need to do is add those numbers up. Let me get rid of some of this clutter here. This is just strictly an average problem. I've said often that the SHSAT normally doesn't use nasty numbers. This is one of those cases where it is using nasty numbers. So we're going to have to add up 8.9. 8.5, 8.4, 8.6, and 8.8. And that's what we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 numbers. I wrote down 5. Let's see. 6 and 4 is 10, 15, 24. If I did that right, that's 32. That's a 3. 8 times 5 is 40. Plus 3, we get 432. If I did that right, did I? Somebody spot my math. 14, 18, 26, 2, 3, 40, 432. Yes. Divided by 5. If you notice, I just did that twice. I added it up twice to make sure I did it right. And I did it in a different order than I did the first time. So if I made a mistake, right, because the choices here are all close to each other, so this has to be right. So 8 times 5 is 40, with 3 left over. 8 times this is 6, right? And we add a 0, and we get 2. So I get E64. Hopefully the answer is G. 76 is G. All right? So that's all that's going on there. I know that the real SHSAT, the ELA section may be harder than the handbook, but for the math section, is it harder, easier, or like the same as the handbook? All right, there's kind of 2 things that go on to me simultaneously. The first is that in all the years that I'm helping kids do this, the majority of kids come back and say the actual test was harder, okay? I've never gotten to see a real test. They don't release it, but the feedback I get from kids is that the majority think it's harder. Now, remember, there's different forms on test day. So I might not get the same test form as you and so on. But the majority of kids think no matter what form they get, both sections are harder than the actual handbook, okay? You have to remember, too, though, that it's test day. So your adrenaline's kicked in, your psychology is going, you're all excited. So there is no other test like test day, because your physiology has changed on test day. So it's hard to tell if kids give me that feedback because they're all pumped up, or the SHSAT really is harder. However, with that all said, kids sometimes tell me what they thought what some of the problems were, and some of the problems can be hard. I never get the full story of actually what the problem was. I can ask another kid, Joe said he got a problem that looked like this, and the kid was like, yeah, but I don't think it was exactly that. So you can never really get to the bottom of it, but I truly feel that even when you take away the adrenaline factor, that the actual SHSAT is harder. Now, was it twice as hard or something like that? No, it's not twice as hard, okay? But it's 1 point something times as hard. And the same question goes for, like, I'm taking SHSAT 9. How hard really is it? Is it twice as hard as the SHSAT 8? Well, first of all, SHSAT 9 is literally an extension of SHSAT 8. So some of the SHSAT 8 questions will also be on the SHSAT 9. So SHSAT 9 is not twice as hard as SHSAT 8. So again, it's 1 point something times as hard. Okay? So it's hard to put lines in the sand on, to actually distinguish a lot of these things. But that's the way it goes. All right? All right, guys. So let's try the next question. How far are we into this? We're 24 minutes, and I don't know how long the broken stream ended up being. Okay, so let's get rid of some of the clutter here. And a good way to think of SHSAT 9 is that not only is it a superset of SHSAT 8, but that if you think that there's an easy SHSAT 8 question, it probably won't be on SHSAT 9. So one way to think of it is that a hard SHSAT 8 problem might be a candidate to be an easy SHSAT 9 question. And vice versa, an easy SHSAT 9 question might turn out to be a hard SHSAT 8 question, just because you guys are more advanced and so on at that point, all right? So let's rip this apart. A piece of wood is 4.5 feet long. That's my wood. Four and a half at some point. That's the wood. Okay, it's cut in 2 different lengths. So if we were to cut it exactly, right, we get 2.25 or 2 1/4. Okay, the shorter piece. So it's telling us that there's now 2 pieces. One is less than 2.25, and one is greater than 2.25. We know no piece is equal to it because it says the shorter piece. So as there's only 2 pieces, one has to be shorter, one has to be longer. Okay? So the shorter piece is of length x. So that's going to be this one. We're not told what the length of this is. Okay? So which inequality expresses that x? Well, it's just simply that x must be less than 2.25. Okay? So that's this part here. Okay? It's not this because it can't be equal to it. If it was equal to it, then the wood is cut directly in half. Okay? C is the length of the original wood. This represents the length of the wood, so it's not that. Okay? And then D represents the larger piece of the wood, so it's not that either. Okay? And then the 0 here is significant because if we cut the piece of wood in half, the short piece has to have some length to it. All right? So therefore the answer here is A. So this is more of a logic problem than an actual math one. All right? So it's that kind of thing you have to figure out. Right. After the test, the kids in my class were talking about how they couldn't finish and how the ELA was harder than the math, but it really depends on your form. Right. So here's what happens too. Let's shift this up slightly. About 28,000 kids take it. So let's say 30,000 kids take it. Okay. Out of that, and I'm pulling stuff out of my hat here. I don't have the actual numbers with me this very second. Wait, you just said something more? Oh, wait, you did say something more. Hey, I took this SHSAT 8, and from the form I got the math formulas, and questions are like the handbook. Well, same topics, difficult questions, more advanced questions, will require a lot more work. So I believe you're saying you took SHSAT 8 last year? The actual SHSAT? I got the math formulas, the questions are like the handbook. Well, same topics, difficult questions, more advanced. Yeah, right. Yeah, the majority of the topics going to be same. They will add some extra ones in here. So here's kind of how this works. And again, I'm not using exact numbers. Okay. So first of all, there's 30,000 kids. About 75% will not finish. They will not get through the test on one form or the other. So that means 25% will finish. Okay, so 25%, you guys know how to take a quarter or something fast? You'll half this, so you're going to get 15K, and then you'll half it a second time, so 7.5K. So it means there's 7.5K, there's only about 7,000 kids who actually finish it, okay? And of those who actually finish it, about another 50% are able to meet a cutoff, right? So that's where you get down to about 4,000 kids are in, and about 3.5 kids are out, okay? Just based on the scores. So that's why it's important to meet that cutoff and be one of the kids who have the rigor to be able to get through. Because usually nobody from here ends up being one of the 4,000 kids. So it's really a fine line in the sand. So actually finishing the test becomes almost correlation to it. Right, time management is key here, guys. It's super duper key. That's what this is about. And that's one reason to practice, to know that you can actually finish the test. And then when you finish it, then worry about what you're getting right and wrong, right? When I tutor kids privately, I don't tutor them based on a score, and I don't tutor them with a clock. So if I tutor a kid for 4 months, the first 2 months is only about getting the questions right. And as you matriculate yourself and get more confident, then we work into how to pace it, building up the different sections and stuff like that. But the key, first of all, is just getting through it. Even if it takes you 5 hours, just get through it and then start building up those pacing skills until you can finally get to the point where on test day that you can at least take all the questions. And then at some point, hopefully weeks and weeks before, if not months before, you're working on getting them correct, right? But if you can't even finish the test, there's enough kids who only answer about 60% of the test. So even if they got all those questions right, that's a tough deal. That's tough. Let's say they can only answer 60%, and all those 60% they got completely right. They still don't really have a shot. So this is a delicate balance. What about those with IAPs? Well, they get more time. They get about double time. It depends how the story goes. Plus any other accommodations that you need, as well as 504 kids. So they get more time, obviously. So that's the deal there. But many of them don't finish either. And it goes both ways. Getting more time is an advantage, but if you're disadvantaged, then that's the only fair way to slice this here. There's a truism that happens too if you look at the New York State tests. Those used to be timed as well. Now they're untimed. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're still going to get kicked out of the school building. You can't say, no, I want to keep doing the test till midnight. So there's a point where you're either going to pass the test or not pass the test. And if you're proficient, you don't need 10 hours, okay? 3 hours is really tight. 3 hours is a super tight line in the sand. Double that is still hard. 6 hours for the SHSAT is still a hard thing. But kind of after that, it's really pushing the deal. You have to remember too that on the New York State test, getting the top score is attainable. Okay, the New York State test is designed so that you can actually get the top score. It's possible. There are kids who get the top score, both in the math section and the ELA. The SHSAT is not necessarily designed that you could actually get the top score. That's one reason why there's cutoffs. So it's just whoever the best group of kids are, even if you get a few wrong, it's still trying to rank you out of there. So that's another reason why the SHSAT is not based on a score of 100%. Because it's not written that you're supposed to get it. Okay? Imagine it was so super hard that a good score was getting 10 right. Right? So if the SHSAT was like infinitely hard and most kids can only get 5 right, then whoever gets 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is demonstrating that they know how to do the harder problems and they're brighter for some definition of bright, right? So that's the way this works. So remember, as much as like you might get annoyed, like, oh man, I can never get all the questions right. The test isn't designed for you to get right. The test has been around for about 100 years, and hundreds of thousands of kids have taken this test. And to my knowledge, no kid has ever gotten 100% on it. So that's how hard it is, okay? I believe some kids have gotten 100% on the math section only, but never on the ELA section, and never on both of them together, obviously, then. All right? All right, let's do a few more problems. Now that we're done with that sidebar, did we finish this question? Yes, we did. Okay, there's a few ways to approach 78. So I'm going to look at the illustration by itself first. So I see a coordinate grid. I'm going to make note that these are by 5, and this is also by 5. it starts at 0. I always do that as a check, okay? And by the way, I'm going to put something over here on the side as a sidebar. If you see a coordinate grid and it has what looks like a lightning bolt either here, or even here or here, that means it's not starting at 0 anymore. So this might be 1, 2, 3. This may have a lightning bolt and it starts at 10,000 and then it goes at like 11,000. So always notice that, because it's easy on the test to think this is 1 and that's 2. In the meantime, it starts all the way at 10,000, okay? On a similar note, some graphs, especially like a histogram, let's say this was 10,000, and so half that is 5,000, okay? This looks like a normal graph, and this is one way where numbers lie to you. But let's say I did this graph this way, that that the 5,000 looked like this, and the 10,000 looked like that. The 10,000 looked like that. If I asked you, that's not here. If I asked you visually to compare these two things, you would say this one here, A looks like it's really bigger than B, but this might have been 5,000. And this is 10,000 over here, so it doesn't start from 0. It's still this here. These are both the same histogram, except they're just starting in different places. So be careful, especially when you get a probability question, like in a could be based kind of scatter plot or something. It could be elusive. Make sure you know where your coordinates are. All right. So coming back to 78, I'm noticing this is white space here, and shaded there. Okay. Right. I'm not looking at the question yet. Let me get rid of my clutter here. Oh, that's over there. I should have just erased that. All right, there we go. I'm guessing, I'm going to make a guess because I've done some problems like this before, and you guys have done. This is my thought process, the same thought process you guys should have, I believe. You're going to guess, it's going to ask you for the shaded area, the area of the shaded area. So let's look at the question now that we looked at the illustration, and just try to understand what might be happening with the words now, okay? What is the area in square units of the shaded region? So that is exactly what it's doing, okay? So normally the way to solve some of these problems is to look for a larger figure, okay? Or let's say it wanted the area of just this here. Let's say that was our shaded area. So then we kind of want to get rid of this area here and subtract it off the whole thing. I know I just said that wrong. So let's use the example over here. Basically, what we want to get is this area here, the area of this square, and now we have 3 shapes. We have A, which is that little small triangle there. We have B, which is literally the shaded area, and now we have C. Okay, there's also another shape, which is the whole the square. That's D. Okay, so what we're going to take the whole square D. We're going to subtract off of it C, subtract off of it A, and what we're left with is B. That's the only thing we're left with. All right. Okay. Is everybody with that? Does that make sense to you guys? So this is 5, 10, 15, 20. So the area of the square is 20 times 20, or that's 400. Okay. So C is half of the square, right? So we have 400 here. C is 400 over 2, right? Because it's half of the square. From over here So over here is the diagonal. So we can get rid of all this here. Okay. So we're going to have 400 minus 200. Okay, what about A? A is a triangle. It's a right triangle because this is a square. There's a right angle right there. Okay. So that's 10 by 15. So the area of A equals 10 by 15 over 2. 1/2 BH, right? The base is 10. The height is 15. So we get 150 over 2. So the area of A is 75. So we're going to subtract 75 from that. And that will give us B. So we have 400 minus 200 is 200 minus 75. And that will equal to 125. Okay, which should be F. What question number was that? 78. 78 is F. So does everybody see that? Yeah, very good, Lil vending machine. Okay, does everybody see that? So it's easy to make mistakes doing this problem. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase all this. And we're actually just going to do the most simple way to solve this. One second while this clears up. Okay, each square in here, this is a 5 by 5, right? So 5 by 5 is 25. So this is 25 here, okay? So that's a full one. This is half plus a half there. So now we have 1, which is the full one. We have half plus a half, we have a second one. This is half plus another half, okay? So that's a full one there. So what do we have? We got that, we got that, we got that, got that, and we got that, okay? So what left with this is this here, this, and this, okay? If we look at this hard, this and this is similar triangles. So I can take this triangle and stick it into there. So that fills up there. So we accommodate this and this, we got one more. Okay? And now we have this versus this. Okay? If you notice that too, they're also similar triangles. This white space right there is actually the shaded part of this. So there's one more. So we have 5. So we have 5 squares at 25. And that's equal to 125. Okay? This is the cheap man's way of solving this, if you will, especially if you don't know how to solve it the other way. Right. That's true of a lot of these problems. So if you kind of need to brute force this in a way, this is the brute force to actually just go and do it. And a lot of these problems work this way. Here's the gotcha. A lot of kids might figure out that there's 5 squares, and then they'll see that the distance here is 5, and they'll go 5 times 5, and they'll do something like 75 or whatever. They'll just completely mess it up somehow, and not realize that it should have been 125. So that should double check. That's a way to double check this. To just go in there and do that. Wait a second, my mouse is messing up here. All right, is everybody good on 78? Okay, 79 is kind of annoying too. So if anybody knows, this is your Celsius to Fahrenheit conversion algorithm. This is the actual algorithm. The SHSAT never requires you to memorize this, but it's probably good and handy if you have that in the back of your mind as one of the formulas to know. but it's always going to give it to you. You don't have to memorize this, but you should be fluid and understand how it works. So yesterday in Centerville, we don't care where that is. The highest, so I'm going to look at this. This is my illustration. I'm going to look at this first and just make sense of it. Okay, there's C there. That's a symbol, and something's being applied to it. Cool, cool, cool. Right, and I'm doing this in microseconds. I'm not taking half an hour to analyze this. The highest Fahrenheit temperature was 86, and the lowest Fahrenheit was 68. What was the difference between these temperatures in Celsius? So I'm just going to plug them in. All right. So it's going to tell us that 86 was 9/5 of C plus 32. So I'm going to just plug in both of those. So I'm going to subtract 32 from here, subtract 32 from there. So I get 54 equals 9/5 of C, right? And I'm going to get C by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9/5. Okay, the 9's cancel, the 5's cancel. Do not multiply 5 times 54 because 9 goes into here 6 times. So that means C equals 30. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing with the other temperature. 68 equals 9/5 of C plus 32. We're going to subtract 32 from both sides. That goes away, right? That went away there too. Minus 32. So I get 36 equals 9/5 of C. I need to get C by itself. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 9/5. This cancels. That cancels. Don't multiply 5 times 36. 9 goes into 36 4 times. Therefore, C is equal to 20. Okay, it says what's the difference? That means subtraction. So we're going to do 30 minus 20 equals 10. Okay, so the answer for 79 should be A. Yes, it is. Okay, good. So this one's annoying. They're making you do busy work to try to solve this problem, which is kind of unfair. What I'm going to do too is I'm going to stop at the end of this page. How many problems are there? 2 more problems. All right, let me erase this. So be careful with a problem like 79. There's too much busy work. So that's a problem you should have in the back of your mind. Am I going to make a silly error on this problem? You should always have that in the back of your mind, but it's more apt to happen because look, there was too many calculations we had to do there. Okay, just way too many calculations. Okay, let x be an odd number. X is odd. In terms of x, what is the sum of the 2 even numbers closest to x? Well, if this is a number x, the 2 numbers closest to it would be the one just before it and the one right after it. Okay? So it says, what is the sum of them? Them is this and this. This is not x minus 1 plus x plus 1. It's not asking for x to be involved. It's just x minus 1 plus x plus 1. Okay? These cancel out, and we end up with 2x. Okay, and that's F. So this was kind of a no-brainer one as well, right? Very good. You guys doing well? Okay, that's 80. And this will be the last problem. If you guys have any general questions, you can pop them out there too. Okay, in 1991, so I said the SHSAT normally doesn't throw ugly numbers at us, but both of those numbers are like, uh-oh. So in 1991, the total debt of the United States was that huge number there. Millions, billions, trillions, gazillions. No, it's trillions. And that year, there was 250 million people in the U.S. Which amount is best estimate of the public debt per person? So it's it's the amount over the number of people, right, equals whatever it is. All right, so what we can do really is just start throwing away zeros, because when we write that number up there and the one below it, we're going to get a whole bunch of zeros. So let's get rid of these three and those three, these three and those three, this one here and one more there. Okay, so what we have is 360000 over 25. Okay, there's no more math here. You know it can't be D, right? Because 25 goes into 36 about one time. It can't go into it twice. All right? You know it can't be A for that reason. So is it B or C? Well, there's 4 zeros here. So it's going to be like 1.4. Right? So what does that give us? It gives us B. So you kind of, you don't, in other words, you don't need to do this. You don't need to go through and do that, because it should be obvious with the number of zeros which the choice is. Too many zeros, yeah. That's the gotcha with this problem. So there's always a twist to it. They're just there to annoy the heck out of you. It's just there to annoy the heck out of you. Remember, the test is about rigor as well. It's about your no hesitation math. It's about numeracy. It's not just about doing hard calculations. And as I keep telling you guys, the SHSAT normally doesn't throw ugly numbers at you. They're not trying to make it hard on you. In almost all cases, there's always numbers that cancel each other out. Like if you take when we were solving this here. Remember I said, don't multiply 5 times 36, divide. Same over here. Don't multiply 5 times 54. Put the 9 into 54 and see if it cancels out. So it means your fundamentals, your core stuff, like do you know your factor trees? Do you know your multiplication table? Do you know your perfect squares? Do you know your right triangles? All those kind of things like that. That's what you're being tested on as well. All right. All right. So I'm going to end this here unless you guys have some questions. What do we have left? This is 81, 91. There's about 23 questions left. So we could probably do some 2 sessions. That's Saturday, Sunday. Do the grade 9 stuff on Monday. All right. So that's the tentative plan right now. And what I might do is I'm going to take a little break, and I might actually pop in and do rip question number 65 to pieces. All right. Welcome again, everybody. Please like. They make the questions look hard at the beginning, but as soon as you start, it becomes easy, right? And it's just your attention to detail always matters. And you want to make sure you're not making a, quote, silly error, right? Those kind of things. Do you guys have any other general stuff? I forgot, is there a reference sheet on the SHSAT? No, there's not. The best they're going to do is, like in this question, if they feel you need a formula, they're going to give it to you. So almost always the only 2 formulas they give you is this one, or they might say 1 mile equals 5280 feet. Okay. Same for your unit conversions. If there's something with liters and milliliters, you guys are supposed to know that. They generally avoid pints and gallons and quarts. That's more of a New York State question. I'm not sure why they avoid that completely, but they definitely make a conscious decision to avoid it. But you know what? We don't know, and this might be the year that they ask you that. So be fluid in all your conversions like that as well, guys. But there's no reference sheet. That's only on the New York State test and the regions they give it. And even at that, it's not terribly helpful. So even for grade 8, you should know all your basic formulas, your multiplication tables. Definitely for SHSAT 9, you need to know all your 2D shapes, all your 3D shapes, and all the formulas applied to that. So it's basically volume, area, and surface area. You need to know all those as well. All right. What else? What else, you guys? You got to throw at me? Are the odds in our favor? Um, yeah, you guys are the ones grinding. The more you're grinding with purpose. Don't just grind yourself into a hole, because then you're just, you know, a car doing a donut, screeching doing donut. It never moves from its spot. So you don't want to be that car, right? Technically, technically, the velocity of a car that goes 1,000,000 miles an hour and come back to where it started from, it never moved. So you don't want to be prepping and studying that way. But most of you guys are prepping with purpose, and you're using logic and rationale to break through and get through to each next step. And a lot of you guys already took a bunch of practice tests. I'm not a believer in taking 10,000 practice tests. Okay. Well, you can catch it on the replay. I'm not a believer in doing that. But if you do it with purpose and you're methodical, you can get where you need to be, especially if you're tracking yourself. Did you journal what your errors were? Are you aware of your strengths and weaknesses? Did you decide at this point what strategy you're going to use on test day? Do you like doing the easy test hard? Do you like doing the hard test first? Do you know, like, you might feel not comfortable with poetry, so you do that one last, or a whole different series of things here. So I think you guys know that. I think you guys know that. There are other kids who don't know that, so they're in a way at a disadvantage. All right. I'll give you guys 30 more seconds to ask a question. Otherwise, I'm going to peace out. And like I said, I may or may not do another thing. Smash the like button. Okay. All right, guys. Peace out. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. And I'll probably be back tomorrow with some more parts to this.